All right, let's dive straight in. You probably heard just 2 days ago about that massive magnitude 8.8 earthquake off Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula.
Yeah, a really significant one. And it immediately sent this colossal wave of water racing right across the Pacific.
At the speed of a jetliner, apparently.
Yeah,
Heading towards Hawaii, California, Washington state.
exactly. It spurred these urgent tsunami warnings, caused a lot of, well, understandable alarm overnight Wednesday.
But here's where it gets interesting, and this is really the core question that got us digging into this for you today. Despite that power, that speed, when those tsunami waves actually hit U.S. shores, well, they didn't cause the kind of widespread devastation or deaths some might have feared.
Right. In fact, in some places where warnings were issued, the water level changes, the inundation might not have even looked that threatening to someone just watching.
Exactly. So why? That's the question. Was the warning a bust? Was it, poorly forecast? Or was the risk just different?
Well, no, it doesn't mean it was a bust at all. And that's crucial. The researchers are clear. The risk was real.
Okay, so our mission today isn't to second-guess the warnings. It's really to understand the incredibly sophisticated science and the systems behind modern tsunami preparedness.
Yeah, the human coordination too. We want to unpack what worked in this case, what new tech is being developed to make things even faster and better.
And also what challenges still exist. You might actually be surprised how far we've come in getting ready for these huge natural events.
Absolutely. And if you look back, historically, this whole effort really started gaining international momentum with what are called tsunami service providers, or TSPs.
Okay.
The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, the PTWC, is kind of the oldest one. It was set up way back in 1949.
Wow. That's long ago.
Yeah, it was a direct result of that devastating 1946 tsunami from the Aleutian Islands that just flattened parts of Hilo, Hawaii. Their job is basically to assess the risk across entire ocean basins and get information out.
So the TSPs are like the big picture, global monitors. Then what happens?
Then individual countries, through their own national tsunami warning centers, NTWCs take that info or do their own analysis and issue specific warnings to their own coastlines, to you.
Got it. So it's layered, global watchdogs, then national centers, tailoring it locally. But what do those different alerts actually mean for someone on the coast?
That's a really important distinction for people to understand. The U.S. Tsunami Warning Centers, for example, issue 4 main types of alerts for the U.S. and Canada. Each means something different about the threat level and what you should do.
Okay, let's break those down. The big one first.
Right. The most severe is a tsunami warning. That means dangerous, widespread inundation, major coastal flooding, powerful currents. It's either imminent or already happening.
So warning means get out. Evacuate low-lying areas immediately.
Exactly. And crucially, to give you the most time, those initial warnings are often based just on the earthquake's seismic info. Speed is everything.
Makes sense. What's the next level down?
That would be a tsunami advisory. This means strong currents or waves are expected. That could be dangerous if you're right in or very near the water. But, and this is key, significant flooding onto land isn't expected.
So advisory means stay out of the water, maybe clear the beaches or harbors, but you probably don't need to evacuate your home further inland.
Precisely. It's about water safety, not necessarily land inundation.
Okay. Then there's a watch.
Yes, a tsunami watch. This is an earlier heads up for areas farther away that might be impacted later. It urges you to prepare for possible action. Like the initial warning, it's based on seismic info before they've confirmed a destructive tsunami is actually crossing the ocean.
So watch is like, pay attention, something happened, we're monitoring it, be ready.
You got it. And finally, there's a tsunami information statement. This is often issued just to let you know about an earthquake or a warning happening somewhere else, usually to clarify that your area is not expected to see destructive waves, helps prevent unnecessary panic or evacuations.
That's actually really helpful, knowing there are these distinct levels. It allows for a more nuanced response from you, the public, right? Avoids that cry wolf feeling while still keeping people safe.
Exactly. And this whole system, this drive for more comprehensive warnings, really got a massive, tragic push after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami.
Oh yeah, that was just devastating. Over 230,000 people across 14 countries.
It was a terrible wake-up call. It showed the world where warning systems just didn't exist. Since then, there's been huge progress. We now have regional warning systems covering all 4 major ocean basins, a tremendous improvement in less than 20 years.
That 2004 disaster really highlights the speed issue. issue too, doesn't it? You said tsunamis move like jet planes in deep water.
They do. They can cross entire oceans in under a day. Think about that. A wave moving faster than your flight from LA to Tokyo, it means every single minute counts for warnings, especially if the earthquake happens close to shore.
So how do we detect them fast enough?
Yeah.
What's the tech?
Well, traditionally, the workhorse has been the tsunameter. These are sensors on the ocean floor that detect very small changes in water pressure as a tsunami wave passes over them.
Okay, pressure sensors on the seabed.
Right. But they were usually placed maybe an hour's travel time away from big earthquake zones.
An hour? Why so far? Seems like you'd want them closer.
You would, but the problem was the sheer force of the earthquake's seismic waves could overwhelm the sensors if they were too close. It created too much noise.
Ah, okay, so you needed distance for a clear signal, but an hour is a long time to wait.
It is, but here's a real game changer. NOAA's Pacific Marine Environmental Lab, PMUL, they've developed a new way to filter out that seismic noise.
Ooh, okay. Noise-canceling headphones for the ocean floor.
Sort of. This breakthrough means they can now place these tsunameters much, much closer, maybe only 10 minutes of tsunami travel time from the earthquake source.
10 minutes instead of an hour. That's huge.
It's a massive improvement for cutting down warning times. New Zealand is actually one of the first places really adopting this new capability. It gives coastal communities much more lead time.
That's fantastic progress. But I also read about something even more, well, integrated, something called smart cables.
Ah, yes. Smart cable science monitoring and reliable telecommunications. This is a really revolutionary idea.
So what is it?
It basically leverages the huge network of undersea fiber optic cables that already crisscross the globe carrying our internet and phone data. By integrating small, inexpensive sensors directly into the cable repeater units, these are already part of the system, boosting the signal every 70 kilometers or so. These sensors measure ocean bottom temperature, pressure, and seismic acceleration.
Wait, so the cables we use for Netflix and emails could also be constantly monitoring the ocean floor for earthquakes and tsunamis?
Exactly. It's got this incredible dual benefit. You get vital data for climate science, things like sea level rise, ocean currents, temperature changes.
And you get a massively expanded network for early warnings for earthquakes and tsunamis, all using infrastructure that's already there.
Precisely. It's repurposing technology in a really smart way. Portugal is actually building one of the first systems like this, the Smart Atlantic CAM system.
Portugal. Tell me more.
It's going to connect their mainland with the Azores and Madeira Islands by 2026. And get this, it's projected to provide 25 years of this enhanced protection for an incredibly low cost per person, like 1.50 total for the whole 25 years.
Wow. That's amazing value, especially for Portugal, given their history with the huge 1755 Lisbon earthquake and tsunami.
It makes perfect sense for them, and this really underscores another key point, coordination.
How so?
Because tsunamis don't respect borders, they travel vast distances. So for these systems to be truly effective, especially the global ones like smart cables or even the buoy networks, you need international cooperation. Data sharing is critical.
Through things like the Global Ocean Observing System, GOS.
Exactly. Sharing data in real time allows everyone to benefit, make better forecasts, and even strategically move resources like deployable buoys to where they're needed most. It's about making the whole system greater than the sum of its parts.
Okay, so detection is getting faster, smarter. But these systems still kick in after an earthquake happens.
Yeah.
What about predicting the earthquake itself? That's always been the holy grail, hasn't it?
It really has. And, the official stance from bodies like the U.S. Geological Survey has long been that earthquakes cannot be reliably predicted in the short term. We can calculate probabilities over long periods, but not when and where next week.
And events like the terrible 2023 Turkey-Syria earthquake, killing tens of thousands, really drive home how unpredictable they still are.
Tragically, yes.
Ugh.
But there is some potentially groundbreaking work happening using artificial intelligence.
AI for earthquake prediction. I've heard whispers, but is it actually working?
Well, there's some fascinating research out of the University of Texas at Austin. They worked with data from China. Using AI, they managed to correctly predict 70% of the earthquakes in a specific test area over 7 months, a full week before they happened.
70%.
Yeah.
A week in advance. That sounds huge. How did they do it?
It's pretty clever. They didn't invent brand new AI. They use AI to analyze enormous amounts of real-time seismic data coming from a dense network in China called AETA-150 stations with special acoustic and electromagnetic sensors.
So tons of data looking for subtle patterns.
Exactly. The AI identified like 95 different features every 10 minutes, used a mathematical technique to simplify all that data, finding important signals, and then applied standard AI models called random forests to make the weekly predictions.
So the key wasn't necessarily a magic new algorithm, but having incredibly rich, detailed data and applying existing AI smartly.
That seems to be the takeaway. It highlights the power of good data and intelligent application. And this thinking, using AI, is also moving into tsunami warnings themselves. Not just detecting the quake, but forecasting the impact of the tsunami.
Impact-based forecasting, I've heard that term. It's about shifting from just saying what the weather will be to predicting what the weather will do, right?
Precisely. The UN University has highlighted how AI can help here. It can improve our knowledge of risk by identifying vulnerable communities from satellite data, for example.
Okay.
It can speed up hazard detection like the World Meteorological Organization is doing with some systems. It can optimize how warnings are sent out, tailoring messages, different languages.
It'd even help with response planning.
Yeah, by running super fast simulations. What if the wave hits at high tide? What if it hits this neighborhood versus that one? AI can help plan for different contingencies.
And there's new tech, making those simulations faster too. I saw something from Georgia Tech.
Right, latent NSF. It's a new machine learning technique. Basically, it's really good at taking sparse data like you might get from just a few sensors and making highly accurate predictions about complex things like coastal flooding, tides, or tsunamis.
How accurate? How fast?
Very accurate, apparently. And the speed increase is dramatic. Simulations that used to take hours on a supercomputer can now potentially be done in seconds on a regular machine. That's crucial when minutes matter.
Okay, AI sounds incredibly promising.
Yeah.
But there have to be caveats, right? Limitations.
Absolutely. Big ones. New research from the University of Western Ontario really emphasizes this. AI models are only as good as the data they're trained on.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And the problem is, many high-risk tsunami-prone areas simply don't have enough high-quality, real-world data. Take Canada's west coast, for example. Highly vulnerable. But they only have 4 ocean bottom sensors right now.
Only 4 for that entire coastline.
Yeah. So if you're trying to train an AI model for that region, the data is, it's pretty hazy, as the researchers put it.
And you mentioned Tofino earlier, that popular spot right in the Cascadia subduction zone. Risk of a magnitude 9 quake, maybe a 30-meter tsunami wave in 20 minutes.
Exactly. And the researchers say this lack of dense, high-quality sensor data is a huge problem for accurately predicting how big that wave might be or exactly where it would hit hardest along that coast. We know the big one is coming eventually, but predicting its specific impact is hampered by data gaps.
That's worrying. And it leads to ethical questions too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About deploying AI in these situations.
Definitely. The UNU source brings this up forcefully. AI isn't some kind of silver bullet. It can actually reinforce existing biases if the training data isn't representative, maybe undercounting risks in marginalized communities.
Or it could widen the digital divide if some communities have access to the tech and warnings and others don't.
That's a major concern. Plus, there's the issue of trust. If an AI system issues false alarms, people might stop paying attention. So human oversight, human validation of these AI-driven warnings remains absolutely essential. You need people to trust the system when it counts.
It always comes back to the human element, doesn't it? It's not just about the fancy tech.
Never just about the tech. And that connects to another critical challenge, capacity development. Having the trained people on the ground.
Meaning,
in many parts of the world, especially areas in Africa or the Southwest Pacific, the main barrier to having more basic sea level monitoring stations isn't the cost. They're relatively cheap, maybe $5,000 each.
okay, so what's the problem?
It's the lack of trained local personnel to install, maintain, and calibrate them properly. You need skilled technicians to make sure the data coming out is reliable.
So you can have the best sensors, but if no one knows how to keep them running accurately.
Exactly. But there are success stories. Look at the Caribbean. They went from maybe 10 sea level stations back in 2006 to over 70 just a few years later, largely through focused efforts on training local experts.
That shows it can be done. Investing in people pays off.
It's absolutely fundamental, which brings us back to that accessibility point, making sure these tools, both the tech and the training, reach the countries that need them most.
Okay, so we need better sensors, smarter AI, more data, and trained people everywhere. But what about getting warnings out even more widely, more immediately? Is there anything closer to hand?
Funny you should ask. The answer might literally be in your hand or your pocket right now. Your smartphone.
My phone. How?
Through systems like the Android Earthquake Alert System. It's basically turning millions of phones into a giant distributed earthquake detection network. It supplements the official systems, hugely broadening access to early warnings.
Get out. How did that even work?
It uses the accelerometer in your Android phone. That's the little sensor that knows when you tilt your phone to flip the screen orientation.
Okay, I know that sensor.
Well, it's sensitive enough to detect the very first, faster-moving wave from an earthquake to people. It usually feels like a little jolt or rumble.
The one that arrives before the main shaking?
Exactly. If your phone is stationary and detects that P-wave shaking, it sends a tiny anonymous signal to a central server. The server looks for similar signals from many phones in the same area.
Like crowdsourcing earthquake detection.
Pretty much. If enough phones detect it, the server confirms an earthquake is likely happening, estimates the location and magnitude, and then blasts out an alert to phones in areas likely to feel the stronger, more damaging S-wave shaking that follows.
That is incredibly clever, and the scale must be enormous.
It's mind-blowing. By the end of 2023, this system was active in 98 countries. It had detected over 18,000 earthquakes and sent out almost 800 million alerts related to over 2,000 of those quakes.
Wow.
Think about the increase in access. Before systems like this, maybe 250 million people globally had access to any kind of earthquake early warning in 2019. Now, largely thanks to this, it's closer to 2.5 billion people.
A tenfold increase. Just by leveraging phones people already have.
It's democratizing safety tech, and the data shows it provides real warning time.
Like how much time?
Well, examples.
Yeah.
Magnitude 6.7 quake in the Philippines last November. The system sent an alert 18 seconds after the quake started, giving people closest up to 15 seconds of warning before the strong shaking hit.
15 seconds doesn't sound like much, but it's enough to drop, cover, and hold on.
Absolutely. In Nepal, a M5.7 quake gave over 10 million people between 10 and 60 seconds warning. In Turkey, an M6.2 gave up to 20 seconds warning. These seconds save lives.
And do people actually use that time? Do they find it helpful?
That's the real clincher. They've gotten over 1.5 million responses to post-alert surveys. 85% said the alerts were very helpful. Even among people who didn't actually feel the shaking, 79% of them still found the alert very helpful, just knowing what was happening.
That's powerful. It builds preparedness and reduces anxiety.
And importantly, for the stronger alerts that advise taking action, the most common reported action was drop, cover, and hold on. People are doing the right thing.
It shows these pocket-sized warnings are genuinely effective.
They really are. It's not just theoretical. It's working in the real world.
Okay, so let's circle all the way back to where we started. That Kamchatka earthquake and the tsunami warnings for the U.S. coast. Why wasn't it worse?
Well, based on everything we've discussed, the limited impact wasn't a sign of failure, but actually a testament to how far these warning systems have progressed.
So it was a combination of things.
Yeah. Sophisticated global monitoring, picking up the earthquake quickly, rapid analysis using both those traditional buoys, and likely newer techniques being tested.
Feeding into those tiered alerts, the warnings, advisories that gave specific guidance.
And effective communication, getting that information out to the public. It wasn't that the tsunami posed zero risk. It was that the systems worked largely as intended to evaluate that risk and inform people appropriately for the level of threat that materialized hours later.
So a success story, in a way, even though the initial trigger was a massive, scary event.
I think you could see it that way, but of course the challenges remain very real.
Right. Integrating AI ethically, closing those data gaps we talked about, especially in vulnerable places.
Making sure everyone, everywhere, has access not just to the tech, but the capacity to use it, and constantly working to make the predictions even more accurate and timely. The work is definitely not done.
So thinking about all this, here's maybe a final thought for you, our listener. As our technology gets better and better at detecting and predicting these natural hazards, what's our responsibility as individuals, as communities, to make sure our own preparedness, our resilience, keeps pace? Not just for the huge headline-grabbing events, but for all the risks that are being amplified by, well, our changing climate.
That's a great question, and it leads to several more we need to keep digging into. Like, how do we really bridge that digital divide so these advanced warning systems help everyone, especially in places with little data?
Yeah, and with AI showing promise for earthquake prediction, what are the next steps for truly rigorous, independent testing to see if those techniques can work reliably elsewhere?
And thinking beyond just the warning itself, how can tech and communities better prepare for the mental health side, the long-term recovery after a disaster hits?
Good point. And as climate change makes extreme weather and sea level rise bigger factors, how do warning systems evolve to predict what the weather will do, the actual impact, not just what it will be?
And finally, a really practical one. What kind of innovative funding and international partnerships do we need to actually get things like smart cables and those advanced tsunameters deployed and maintained all over the world where they're needed most?
Lots to think about there. Some really deep questions for the future. We'll definitely keep exploring them. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.